I'll show you how you can create a blog with Next.js, Tailwind and Markdown. So here is how it will look like. You can see we have a list of blogs, and if you will click on any of them, you can see the content of that particular blog. You can see the structure of that URL. You can see that there is a post / that particular blog slug, and this is how we will structure. The content of this blog is coming from these Markdown files. And as you can see, here's the content. You can write the content over here and it will be updated over there. We will be styling all of this with Tailwind CSS. We'll be using Tailwind to also style this Markdown. So without any further ado, let's see how we can do this. The first step in this process is going to be creating a new project. So we will open up the folder location where we want to create that project inside the terminal or CMD, depending on the operating system you're using. Then we'll run command npx create next app. And then we'll provide a name to our project. So I'll be giving this a name of next blog and hit enter. Once you will do that, it will generate that project for you. The next step is to open that folder inside Visual Studio Code. I'll do that and I'll just fix up the position so that it's easier for you to see. The next step will be to open up the index.js file. We have a lot of content inside. We'll just go there in the terminal and type yarn run dev and hit enter. What this will do is it will start running the application inside localhost 3001. Localhost 3000 is being used by the demo application. Now this is how it looks like, and we have to move to something like this. So the first step in doing so will be to get rid of all the content inside here. Rather than doing it step by step, I'll just get rid of everything and I'll create one more main. Inside this main, I'll create a div. Now you can see everything is clear, but just to give you a look that there's no error or something, I'll just say hello. This is okay, fine. So you can see this is visible. The next step, as I mentioned, is Tailwind. So Tailwind is quite important because we will be using it for this structuring, this typography. Other style you can handle otherwise. So how we can add that to Next.js? Just type Next.js Tailwind. Installing Tailwind CSS with Next.js. I prefer to do it by visiting this website rather than having to remember. It's much faster and easier to do. Now, what we need to do, we have already created the project. We are inside the project. So as you can see, like if you'll go at the top, I can see it's inside next blog, which is the folder of my project. I need to run this command, which is an npm install these three things. As you can see, I run yarn run dev. If you're using npm, then you should run npm install. I'm using yarn, so I'll say yarn add all of these three. The next step is going to be adding this. So I'll copy this, paste it here and hit enter. Once this tailwind.config.js is generated, we are supposed to update this content file, contain. So I'll just wait for it. We have this tailwind and I'll update this. So this array has been updated. The next step is to update our globals.css file with these three tailwind styles. We'll go inside the styles folder, go inside the global.css file, remove everything and paste these styles. Since we have made some changes in our config, it's important to just stop the terminal and run the server again. So I'll say yarn run dev again. It's again started with 3001. So if I'll just reload, there is a change of font and there is structure and a padding is removed and stuff like that. That is because of these. We have started that. So the process of installing Tailwind is done. What is the next step? The next step is to have the content. We need this particular content so that we can load that in our front page, the list, and then show the content in the blog page. So to create that, just go to the outside of your project folder and create a folder called post. You can name it according to how you want, but you have to change it wherever we use. So we'll be creating a file. I can just call it hello world.md. This is going to be markdown file. These are our blogs. So rather than going to write it down from scratch, first I'll tell you about how it is structured and then I'll show you the whole. So over here, you can add different stuff. So for example, with each blog, I want to have a title. So I'll just say hello world. With each blog, I also want to have a description. So I'll say description is, let's say, this This is my blog. I don't want to waste your time, but so don't worry, I'm not going to write everything in front of you. But overall, I hope you get the idea that we have these, and then we have our front matter, it is called here. So if you need, I'll be giving you a link to the repository of this project, which will be in the description. You can just go inside that. You'll go inside the post folder and you'll find these. Like for example, let me just show you directly from here. So I'll just copy both of these and paste them inside the post. I'll remove this hello world. Just so you are clear, I'm not copy pasting anything which you haven't. This is basically a blog which includes title, meta description, social image, and tags. Now about the social image, you will also get that inside there. If you don't have it, you don't have to. The way this blog is structured, you don't actually need it. So you can actually get rid of it. But if you want to add something, I recommend a website called Unsplash. They have a lot of different images. You can just open any of them. Grab that URL and paste over here. As simple like that. As I said, we'll not be using them, so nothing to worry about. I'm just going to paste it both places. Once that is done, what I'm going to do is, now we are supposed to load these files in our index file so that we can show them in our home page. To do that, we'll go to our index file. And in this index file, as you can see, it is just representing right now hello, okay, fine. But what we want to show is we want to show the list of different blocks. So to do that, what we will do is, the first thing is how Next.js works is it needs to get the content, provide that to this component, and it will generate that page. To do that, we will use a function which is called getStaticProps. So I'll start like this. I'll say export async function. We'll call it getStaticProps. And over here, we want to get the posts. It was supposed to be a comment. Get the post. So how do we get that? Well, they are in our folders. So we will need something like file system. So we will go over here and we'll say import fs from fs. And now I can say const files is equals to fs dot get read dir sync. And over here we need to provide the location. So the location, since our folder of this posts folder is outside, we can just directly provide post. If it was somewhere else, like deep or somewhere outside, like we have to provide accordingly, like dot slash if it's outside, slash and go deeper if it's inside. We provided this. Next we want the posts. So we'll say posts is equals to. Now we will use this files and go through all of it and return. In this post, basically we want to have two things. The first is the slug. Slug is basically going to be this URL, which we will have above over here, this part. And the second thing which we need is this content, which is called the front matter, which is basically this top. So these two things is what we want in the posts, because in this home page, we don't want the whole content. We just want to show a list of posts. So to do that, we'll just say files dot map, and here we'll create a arrow function and we'll type file name. And now what we need to do is, first we said about slug. So to create the slug, we'll just say const and then we'll say slug is equals to file name dot replace dot md file with blank. So basically what we are doing is, if you see these files, we have this, let me increase this. So basically how to dev .md. We just want to get rid of the .md and just keep that as a slug. Well, looks like slug is done. What is the next thing which we need? We needed the front matter. Now to get that front matter, we cannot just directly get content. We don't want to create a function on our own. There is a npm package which is called gray matter, which we will be using, npm, which will help us get this particular matter without having to like write everything from scratch. So to do that, you just have to click on the first link and then install this. So I'm going to copy that, create a new terminal, type yarn add gray matter. So gray matter will basically help us to add all of that, to get all of this and add that to a constant, and then we'll fetch it to show it on our page. So I'm going to say const, and we'll just call it read files is equals to fs dot read file sync. So basically we are trying to read that file, because we don't want to just directly let me show you, then I'll explain. So we will be reading the file from posts slash dollar, and now we need to provide this file name or the slug, you can say. Actually file name we need, because we are reading the file. We are not kind of opening a URL or something. So this is how we'll be reading the file. So this read files is basically us reading that file, right? Or like the system is reading that file. Now this reading file is what we need to provide to that this gray matter, and it will provide us that content. So how we will do that? We will say const and data, that is front matter, and then I'll say matter read files. So matter is basically a function provided by this particular package, so we need to import it. It's not something which we created. So we'll say matter from gray matter. Well, it worked. Or so you need to write matter from gray matter like that. Well, now we have the front matter and we have the slug. So let's return that. Return. What is it? First we want to return the slug. Second we want to return the front matter. So this whole return thing is basically just going to the posts. This post will have this content. Now we have it. Let's go outside of this, and this function, which is get static props, it is supposed to return the content, whatever we want to, or like data. So I'm going to say return, or actually it's got props, right? We get props in our React projects. So it will be props and it will be posts. So whatever we are providing over here, that is what we will be accepting over here. So I'll say post. Now let's see, I'm going to go over here. It says cannot resolve imported this post CSS automatically. So I'll just remove that and it should fix everything. So now we have this hello, this okay fine thing, but we actually want to show the list of the posts. So how we can do that? We'll use this posts, which we returned from our get static props function. And I'm going to just create a list of it. So I'll just go here, write posts dot map. I'll map through it. I'll create one more post. I'll create an arrow function inside. And here we will return a div. This div is going to include two things. The first thing which it will have is h1, and that h1 is basically post dot front matter. Now why am I saying front matter here? Let me first type, I guess, then I can explain. So basically what we are doing is this post is coming from this posts, and these posts, like each of the posts is basically we read the slug and we read the front matter, and we returned it for each of these values. So this front matter is what consists of this data. So post consists of slug and front matter. Front matter consists of the title. So I'll go through post, then front matter, and then title. Then I want to show the description. So that I'll show post dot front matter again dot meta description. Now you'll be like, why am I saying it meta description? Because that's what I told here. Like if I want to update that, I can update it here. The next thing is like, let me just check if I save this. Well, nothing is happening. So I need to just add one quick thing. I'll just close the server and rerun the server again. Yarn run dev. Before I do that, I just also want to have a look at the posts myself. So I'll just say console log posts. And then I'll click on yarn run dev. I'll click on inspect, and then I'll go to console. And here you can see we have rebuilding. Okay, so the first thing is whenever you have something in a list, you should provide a key to that. So I'm going to provide it the key. Key is basically a unique value which React uses to structure stuff and re-render them. So here the unique thing is slug. So I'll just use that. So I'll say post.front slug directly. Now, since we are doing that, we might just go like this. Okay, is it working now? Cannot read block multi-line key may not be implicit key at the column 5. Okay, slug. So we'll go back. Slug is the file name. Okay, seems like an issue with the date. Let's check. I think this URL was not provided correctly and that became this issue. Okay. This is importing it like MDX. So I'll just keep it how I had and I'll get you that image, don't worry. But I'll just go back to the other one. And this, so basically this one was go inside the public folder, create a folder called image, and then have this how to convert. So this image particularly will be in my another project. So let me just quickly open that. This one. Okay, so we have that image, so I don't have to use the URL now. I'll go close this and run that yarn run dev. So basically it was showing this date issue. So I thought, is it this URL which is causing the issue? So I rerun the server and now I'm going to reload this page. And looks like that URL thing was causing a little bit issue. So we fixed that. Now we are using the image from our internal like that. It's too much cluttered, so it's a bit confusing. So let's structure that. The first thing which we need is we need to give it a like size. So the h1 should look like h1. So I'll go to the index file and provide it styling with the Tailwind. So I'll say text XL, I guess. Yeah, that worked. I need to provide a padding top and bottom. So I'll say padding Y. Around 3 should work. Okay, I don't need this hello, this is okay, fine anymore. This is how it looks like. I also want to add a little bit of a margin bottom to each this card or whatever you want to call them. So I'll say margin bottom 4. So you can see it provided that. And to the total div, which is the outer div, I want to provide a padding to it as well. So I'll just say padding 20. That's too much. 10 is fine. So like that. Okay. Now we need to provide a link so that we can go to the next page. So first let's create that next page. So the next page is basically the next page I'm saying, it's basically the blog page. So when you click on this blog, you should be directed to the blog page. So that page will be inside the pages. I'll create a folder called blog. Inside that blog, I'll create a file called slug.js. So the reason it has these brackets because it is not a fixed value, which means it's not going to be your homepage /blog/slug. It is going to be /blog/ whatever the slug is for each blog. So in this page, like on this slug, first let's create a React component. So I'm going to call this blog page. Now you'll be, what happened, Sanskar? You just typed RFCE and all of that content popped up. I'm using an extension which is called React snippets, something like that. React Native snippets. So that's why it's there, but you can copy paste it if you want, but however you prefer. So now we have this page. In this page, we'll need two things. The first thing is going to be get static props and get static path. The get static path function will get all the different path which the Next.js need to generate all these pages. The get static props will get the content of a specific blog via the slug, which is this slug, and provide that to the React component so that we can fill it up, create that, generate that page. I hope that makes sense. So what we will do is, let's start by creating that React component. So the React component is basically going to be the blog page, like, let me show you, like this. This is very simple. Actually, it's just content. What we need to do is we need to first create that get static path function. So to create that, first what we'll do is we'll go here, we'll type async export async function get static paths. In this one, what we need to do is we need to get the path. So I'll say get slugs, because that's what the path is. So to get the slug, we'll follow the similar thing. We'll first get the files. So we need this fs. I'm sorry, I don't need this. Okay, let me open that slug again. We'll copy this, the first line. So const files, we are getting that files again. But in this what we need to do is we need to get the path. So I'll say const path is equals to files.map. Then I'll provide the file name. And then we will provide params, and then it will be slug, which is going to be file name dot replace dot md with blank dot md with blank. So what I did here is we have this paths constant, and in this one we are going through all these different files and we are using their file name and replacing .md from them, which will give us the slug. And we are basically creating this params which we are going to provide. So that params is what is going to be saved because it's an arrow function. So yeah, that will fill up our paths. So now what we can do is we can do the return function. So this function get static path is supposed to return this paths, and it will also return the fallback, which we will say false. So basically what fallback is like, if we provided false, if we visit any URL which is not in the slug, it will be a 404 page. Okay, so we have the get static path. So next we need to get the content for each specific blog. So for that we will say export async function get static props. Now inside this function, what we need to do is we need to get the content for it. So to get that, I'm just going to say get content for each blog. And here we will first start with the file name, because that file name is going to help us get. So how can we get the file name? So we can use the slug which we have. Whatever we return by this get static path, we can actually accept it over here. So I'll say over here params slug. So this slug will be actually available inside this function. So what we will do now is we will say fs.read file sync, the same function which we used before, but this time we are reading a specific, like we were reading a specific pages there as well. So we'll say post slash $, because we'll be using a slug .md. I hope this line makes sense. We are basically just getting the file name by adding the .md and post to it, and then calling this function, which is fs.readFileSync, to read that. Once we do that, we'll say const data. We need the front matter and we need the content. And where will we get this from? We'll get this from the markdown files, right? To get them, we'll use this matter function again, which we used before. This one same from gray matter. And with this one, we need to provide this file name. You can call it file content or like file. File alone will work as well, but file, or just call it markdown file. Because this is basically reading file, not exactly just the name of like a string of it. So it's just a naming thing. You can name it however you prefer. So this is the markdown file. Now this function, get static prop, is supposed to return the content or the data which we need in the React component. So from here we'll say props, and we will be returning this data, which is front matter and content. So I'll say front matter and content. Okay, so we have front matter and we have the content, and now we are going to use these inside the React component. So let's see how we can do that. I'm going to go inside this. I'm going to type front matter content. Okay, so now we need to show these. Before I show, I just usually prefer to just quickly console.log front matter, just making sure everything is going as expected. And no, like, yeah. Now this content which we are getting, it's actually a markdown, but we want to show HTML. So we will also use one more package, which is called markdownit, which will help us convert that markdown to HTML. So I'm just going to grab it from here, go to my terminal, add a node, run yarn run dev, yarn add markdown. Okay, so the way we will use this is we'll just go at the top. We'll say import md from markdownit, and I'll use this md over here. So the first thing which I will do is I'll have a h1. That h1 is going to be front matter dot title, and then I will have an article. You'll be like, article? Why article? I'll tell you. You'll see. It's not important actually, but just yeah. So dangerously set inner HTML will provide like underscore HTML, and then we'll say md dot there is a render function, and then we will provide the content to it. If I go back over here, reload, first of all we are not able to navigate, so we need to fix that. To fix that, I'll be using this link component by Next.js, next link, which I'll provide outside. So we have this div, it is surrounded by this a component, and this a is actually surrounded by the link, which have this href, and that href is actually going to be the slug. So slash post, is it post or post? It's blog. So slash blog slash slug, and inside there we'll close this and paste all of that. It's showing some error, but let's see what is happening. Key. So it's saying it does not know what the slug is. Okay, so it's working now. So we are in this this page where it is saying cannot convert undefined or null to an object. Basically what we did, this semicolon was added over here. If I'll save, okay, it's saving that semicolon. So basically what we need to do is we'll get this and add it like this. So now you can see the semicolon is not there, and we have our content beautifully looking. Not beautifully, but at least like looking. So now we will convert that to beautiful looking by using Tailwind CSS typography. You just visit the first link, install this. So I'm using Yarn again. So yarn add this typography. Then I need to add this to the plugins. So I'll go over here. Here is the plugins, Tailwind plugins, paste it there, save. We have it. Basic use, you need to use this pros class. Now let me tell you why I used, because here in the example they have used this article tag, and that's why I have used article tag over here. If you want, you can use another as well, but that's just why I used. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide it a class name, which is going to be pros, and LG pros Excel. Now if I go back to it, it looks good. We just can add some styling to it. So I'll say class name. We need some padding from all the sides, but yeah, from all the sides around 5. Not good. Not good. Yeah, that's better. So we have this lorem. So this is actually the title. So title needs to be bigger. So I'm just going to provide that text to Excel. Yeah. And I'll just provide it padding of like 4. Yeah, looks good. So we have our blog. Now, one more thing which is left is to deploy the blog. So to deploy it, I'm just going to open up Vercel. And first you need to, of course, push this code to GitHub. So to push that code, git init is already done. So you can see it over here. I just can write a message like born or something like that. And publish branch. I'm going to call it next blog Markdown. I'll make that a public one. I'll share this particular repository in the link in the description, so you can just clone it or use the content of it. So now if I'll click on new project over here, you can see Next.js blog Markdown. I'll just make sure it's done. I'll click on import. It will automatically choose the framework, which is Next.js. I'll click on deploy and then just give it some time. Meanwhile, if you want to improve your blog any further, you can design it, style it as much as you want. For example, just a quick show. If I want to add an image over here, right, that this particular image which we had, I can just go inside the index. You can use next image. I'm just showing you with image right now, but you can use next image. So over here, I'll provide the URL. The URL is actually inside post.form front matter, and the name of it is a social image. So I'm going to say .social image and then close this image tag. So you can see like now we have image over here as well. You want to add a button, you can add a button, read more, thing like that. Let's see. So the deployment is complete, and if you want, you can look it at next blog markdown.asian.vercel.app. I hope you liked this video. I hope it was full of value. I hope you were able to build it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.